It didn't sound dangerous at first, but it felt like trouble. A rhythm that didn't ask permission, a beat that moved the body before the mind could object. This was rock and roll, and Elvis had just found it. In Memphis, music lived everywhere. On street corners, in crowded churches, through open windows late at night. Elvis listened when others passed by. Blues poured out of black neighborhoods, raw and aching. Gospel thundered inside churches, full of fire and release. Country music told stories of loss, faith, and survival. Most people kept these sounds separate. Elvis didn't. He absorbed them all without labels, without rules, without fear. He didn't know he was discovering rock and roll. He only knew that something inside him woke up. At Sun Records, the room was small, hot, unimpressive, but the air felt charged. Elvis stood awkwardly at the microphone, quiet, nervous. Then he started to sing. At first it sounded familiar. Then something shifted. The rhythm loosened, the phrasing bent, the energy changed. It wasn't polished, it wasn't controlled, it was alive. Sam Phillips noticed immediately, not because Elvis was perfect, but because he was different. Elvis didn't sing like anyone else, and more importantly, he didn't move like anyone else. The music pulled through his body, hips, shoulders, feet. It wasn't choreography, it was instinct. And that instinct scared people, because this music crossed lines, racial lines, cultural lines, social lines. Rock and roll wasn't just a sound, it was a collision. Elvis became the bridge, whether he understood it or not. White audiences heard something new. Black audiences recognized something familiar. The combination was explosive. When Elvis performed live, reactions were immediate. Girls screamed, adults stared in shock. Some applauded, others recoiled. This wasn't just music anymore. It was movement, sexuality, freedom, and it made people uncomfortable. Radio stations hesitated, critics complained, church leaders warned. They said it was dangerous, that it corrupted youth, that it broke moral rules. Elvis didn't argue. He just kept singing. Because for him, rock and roll wasn't rebellion, it was honesty. It sounded like where he came from. It moved like how he felt. It expressed what words couldn't. Every performance pushed the line further. Every song blurred categories. Was it country? Was it blues? Was it pop? No one could decide, and that confusion became the power. Rock and roll didn't belong to one place, it belonged to the moment. Elvis's voice carried longing and desire. His movements carried tension and release. Together, they created something unstoppable. The more people tried to contain it, the faster it spread. Teenagers felt seen, heard, understood. Adults felt threatened, because this music didn't respect hierarchy. It didn't bow, it shook. Elvis stood at the center of that shake, wide-eyed, unsure, but fully committed. He wasn't trying to change culture, but culture was changing around him. Each show grew louder, each crowd more intense. Rock and roll wasn't asking for approval anymore. It was taking space, and Elvis was becoming its face. But with discovery came consequence. Attention turned sharp. Judgment followed success. People began to talk about him, not just his music, his body, his movement, his influence. They tried to control him, to soften him, to tame the sound. But rock and roll doesn't shrink easily. It pushes back. Elvis felt that pressure early, the tension between expression and expectation, between freedom and fear. Because discovering rock and roll wasn't just about sound, it was about identity. Who was he allowed to be, and who did the world want him to become? Those questions followed him everywhere, on stage, off stage, in silence. Rock and roll had opened a door, but it didn't promise safety on the other side. It promised intensity, transformation, and no turning back. Elvis had found something powerful, something uncontrollable, something that would lift him higher than he ever imagined and pull him into conflicts he didn't yet understand. This was not just the birth of a genre, it was the beginning of a storm. And Elvis Presley was standing right at its center, still discovering what he had unleashed, still unaware of the cost. Because when rock and roll enters your life, it doesn't ask how ready you are, it changes you anyway. And the world was about to learn what happens when that sound meets fame.